person I'm interviewing, Vince Magnoli. Were you drafted or you enlist? Or do you enlist?
I enlisted.
Where were you living at the time?
Hull, Massachusetts.
Why did you join?
I joined the service because most of the men in my family history joined the service, and I always liked the United States Marines.
Why did you pick the service branch you joined?
I was a big fan of John Wayne, and John Wayne made a lot of Marine pictures, and my whole family was in the Navy, so I figured I'd join the Marines.
Do you recall your first days in the service?
Yes, I do.
What did it feel like?
I was scared, nervous, didn't know what was going to take place, but they build confidence in you so that you can do the job. And when we were done with boot camp, I came out and I was a Marine.
Tell me about your boot camp training experience.
We did a lot of running, marching, close order drill, a lot of histories, customs, and courtesies of the Marine Corps. Because part of being a Marine is you have to know the 200-plus year history of the Marines. We also learned to shoot the rifle. We had to be proficient in small arms, and that's about it.
Do you remember your instructors?
Yes, I do. I know their names. Sergeant Lamb, Staff Sergeant Rivera.
How did you get through it?
I got through it because I didn't want to fail and come home and have that stigma of not being able to make it. And there wasn't much going on back in Hull in the day.
Which wars did you serve in?
I served in the Persian Gulf, the first war against Iraq.
Where exactly did you go?
We went to Kuwait. No, we went to Saudi Arabia first, and we stayed in Saudi Arabia and trained for approximately 3 months. Then once January 15th, 1991 came around, we started the war. Desert Shield went to Desert Storm, and we moved to the border of Kuwait. And on February 4th, we went through a minefield in Kuwait that the Iraqi army had laid, and we went on to Kuwait City, capturing a bunch of POWs, or we captured a bunch of POWs, and the other guys that didn't capture died for their country.
Do you remember arriving and what it was like?
Yes, it was hot during the day, probably 120 degrees, and it would get down around 70 at night, and that difference in temperature was freezing cold. You'd have to wear a heavy coat and a stocking cap. It was very cold at night.
What was your job assignment?
I was a radio supervisor. My job was basically to hand out all the radio gear to all the infantry companies and make sure that they had the proper cryptographic settings so that they could talk to each other. Also to monitor our battalion TAC net, and which was basically a radio net that was set up between battalion and all the subordinate companies, so that everybody could talk and move and shoot, move and communicate, which is the Marine Corps motto.
Did you see combat?
Yes.
Were there many casualties in your unit?
There were only 2 men in our unit who got hit by shrapnel from exploding artillery shots. Luckily, we didn't lose any members to small arms fire and that type of thing, because the enemy was on the run. They didn't want to fight us. We had superior strength in numbers and superior firepower. The enemy was on the run, and they were hastily shooting artillery off the back of their trucks, as they were pulling the artillery pieces with them on the run. They had a lucky shot on a couple of our corpsmen went out to actually take care of one of the Iraqi guys who were trying to walk through a minefield of their own and surrender to us, and got hit. And our corpsman went up there to help them, and our corpsman got injured. So our corpsmen were the only two that got hurt.
Tell me a couple of your most memorable experiences.
I'll never forget the terrain. It was bleak, desert-like, very hot. We have a picture here, a helicopter landing in the desert, and you can see the dust in the very dusty, hot conditions. Yeah. And I can remember that there weren't any birds. And boy, I couldn't wait to get home just to hear a bird chirp. And there were no trees with leaves, things of that nature. And it was a very bleak place. And then put a lot of people in place there, and soldiers and Marines with tanks and everything. It was definitely, if you're going to have a war, that's the place to have it, because no one would ever want to go there.
Were you a prisoner of war?
Pardon?
Were you a prisoner of war?
No, I was not a prisoner of war, thank God.
Did you receive any medals of honor?
No, I did not receive the Medal of Honor.
How did you stay in touch with your family?
We wrote letters back and forth to my family. I received letters from my family and friends, including your mother and father. But it took a long time to get the letters from Hull, Massachusetts out to Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. So a lot of time the letters would be 6 weeks after they were sent. But that's how we corresponded.
What was the food like?
Food was boring. We had 2 MREs, which are meals ready to eat. Sometimes if we were close enough to the rear area, we'd have a hot chow in the morning, which would be powdered eggs, camel meat, some powdered milk, and if we were lucky, a piece of citrus or something from Israel. You never liked scrambled eggs, I better believe me.
Did you have plenty of supplies?
Yes, we were well supplied.
Was there something special you did for good luck?
Yes, I prayed a lot. I don't think there was any atheists. We were all believed in something, and there were a lot of Catholics in our unit. Our unit's nickname was the Fighting Irish, and we were all Catholics, even those that weren't, because we had a Catholic chaplain with us. So that's what we prayed for, good luck. We had a field mass every morning, and we went to it.
How did people entertain themselves?
Sometimes if you were lucky enough to be off watch, you'd have a CD player or something. And remember the technology of the day, CD players weren't as little as they are today, so there weren't too many of those. Sometimes we'd get newspapers from the rear. They might be old, but it was still nice to see the Hull Times. It may be 6 weeks old, but it was nice to see it.
Were there entertainers?
No, they were not entertainers.
What did you do when on the leave?
When I was on leave, I came home and spent time with my wife and 2 children.
Where did you travel while in the service?
While in the service, I was stationed in 29 Palms, California, which is out in the desert, in a tank battalion, 3rd Tanks. I was also stationed in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, 2nd Marine Division. I was stationed in 1st Marine Amphibious Brigade, 3rd Marine Regiment in Hawaii, and then Kuwait.
Do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual events?
Particularly humorous? Yes. As a matter of fact, I did. One day we came across an Italian unit, and first thing they did was set up a red and white flag, a red and white tent with a flag on top of it, an Italian flag on top of it, out in the middle of the desert. And CO was our CO was quite actually worried that it was easily, because we were all dug in, but our CO was nervous that they could see the tent. And when we went over and approached the Italian unit, they were a unit of cooks, and they were setting up a rear area field kitchen and trying to be a service to anybody that needed hot chow. But, you know, leave it typical of the Italians, and I am Italian American, typical of the Italians, when there's a war on, they set up a red and white tent with a flag on the top of it. I thought that was pretty funny.
What were some of the pranks that you or others would pull?
Pranks that we would pull. Not too many pranks.
Do you have photographs?
Yes, I brought a few photographs with us today. As I already told you, I was stationed in Saudi Arabia, and when we went to Kuwait, this is a picture of me next to the truck that I drove. It's called a Humvee, and this was a forward air controller truck. And this truck, with the radios in this truck, we could talk to the airplanes, the FA-18 Hornets, and we could direct fire on tanks and armored personnel carriers. That was when we were leaving, and as we're driving up north, we landed at an air base. This is Al Walfra Air Base, and Al Jubail Air Base, which is in Kuwait. And of course, this was blown up heavily by our air support and the 7th Marines. And that's me setting up my radio truck right there. And then I took a walk around to recon the area once I was there. And our laser-guided bomb, a GBU-7, that's me standing in what's left of an aircraft hangar after a laser-guided bomb destroys it. Nothing left. And that's what it was like driving up north. That's me driving the truck. And then we got to Kuwait, and you could see this is the Foreign Ministry building after the Marines had taken care of the Iraqi soldiers inside, completely blown apart. And we had to kick out some occupants of the Kuwaiti International Hotel. Bad guys. And then there's that famous Kuwait City Beach and the mosques on Kuwait City Beach. And you can see, if you look closely, you can see there's windows blown out of that. And those windows were blown out when the Iraqis attacked Kuwait City. Mind you, Kuwait City was completely non-defended because they had no idea they were going to be attacked by the Iraqis. That's what started Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm. This is Kuwaiti International Airport's tower. As you can see, it was on fire and we destroyed it with helicopters. All the bad guys were wiped out. We had to evac. If we had prisoners of war, we had to evac them on helicopters so they could be brought to the rear and interrogated. That's why you see the helicopters landing out in the middle of the desert. Of course, once everything was safe and all the bad guys were gone or captured, the Iraqis came back to Kuwait City and they drove through waving flags and thanking America and our allied soldiers. I also have some money, Ryan. The prisoner of wars were interested in trading with us, so we gave them an American dollar bill, and they gave us this. And this is an Iraqi $25 dinar, which is their form of money. You can see a picture of Saddam Hussein. That was a counterfeit bill that was given to the conscripts in the Iraqi army. The conscripts were the people that didn't want to serve. They were forcefully told to serve their country. So Saddam didn't care about them. He paid them with counterfeit money. And you can see that in comparison to a legitimate 25 dinar bill, which has no Saddam Hussein picture on it. This is the counterfeit. This is a legitimate bill. I have more pictures, but those pictures are appropriate for what this interview is.
What did you go on to do as a career after the war?
Well, after the war, I thought I would be a fireman or a police officer, but it didn't work out. And instead, I became a truck driver. And to this day, I'm a teamster, and I drive heavy, big trucks.
Do your military experiences influence your thinking about war or about the military in general?
Yes, it does. Very much so. I think once you've been in the Marines, you're for good or for bad, you're forever conservative in your viewpoints, both politically and militarily.
If in a veterans organization, what kinds of activities does your post or association have?
I am a life member of VFW Post 1787 in Hull, Massachusetts. I don't attend regularly, but they do have a lot of events there for veterans.
Do you attend?
How did my service experiences affect my life?
Do you attend?
Do I attend reunions? No, we haven't had any reunions of our unit. That's unfortunate. But I do get to see a couple of guys that I did serve with during the year, mostly at the Marine Corps birthday or on Veterans Day.
How did your service and experiences affect your life?
Well, if I didn't join the Marines after high school, I never would have met my wonderful wife, Cindy. We never would have had our two boys, Nick and Tony. So I think if I never went in the Marines, I never would have been fulfilled in my life because my wife is my best friend.
Is there anything you would like to add that we have not covered in this interview?
Yes. You're wearing the uniform that I wore while I was over there. It's called the Desert Camouflage Uniform. And there is a picture. There's more pictures somewhere. Can we stop that, John, for a second? Yeah. Okay. This picture was taken, Ryan, in front of the U.S. Embassy in Kuwait City. And these little children around me they got out of a limousine with an oil baron father from Kuwait. Remember, Kuwait is run by barons. And these children were the children of this oil baron, and they were very happy that we kicked the bad guys out of their country, and they wanted to take a picture with me. And you could see the Marine in the background. He's got a machine gun. But all the bad guys were gone, and it was safe, so the kids got out and took a picture with me. You can see my pistol stuck in my pocket right there. I think that's interesting. This is the uniform that you're wearing, Ryan. It's a desert camouflage cover, floppy cover we call it, and the desert chocolate chip uniform that we wore when we were over there. And let your father see that. And you can see there's the logo of the United States Marines, the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. I think that's pretty interesting. And these are dog tags that you're wearing. These are my dog tags. And dog tags identify the Marine or soldier or sailor or airman. And if anything should happen to you, they know who you are by your dog tags. I think this is a nice picture to show you. Once we went back to Saudi Arabia after combat operations, we set up a base in the middle of the desert. And there's Old Glory flying in a sandstorm. And I think that's very nice. And you can see our little truck there, and you see the little guy there. That's our Fighting Irishman. That was our motto, the Fighting Irish. Now, we didn't show this, but naturally when you're in the desert, what's in the desert? What kind of animals are in the desert?
Camels.
Oh, there's your desert. There's your camels. Not only do camels smell, they spit on you. So you don't want to get too close to them. Can't have a picture of the desert without having a camel. And there's me leaning on my truck after the war was over, waiting to go home, saying, I just can't wait to get back to Hull, Mass.
Okay.
It's been very nice talking to you, Ryan.